And then it was time for the presents. Santa Claus got up and he went and he bent down and he picked up a present and he said, "Judy, who's Judy?" And Judy raised her hand and he went and gave a present. And Tom, who's Tom? And Tom raised his hand. And one by one, all the presents were given away, except one. Now the lady that was all dressed up, that was sitting in the rocking chair, she looked over there and she said, "Has everybody gotten a present?" And they all said,
"Yes."
"Yes." And then she said, "Well, who's this present for?" And the matron lady said, "Well, that's for the littlest orphan, but he's being punished, so he can't come today." And the lady said, "Really? Well, I want to go see him." So the matron lady got up and together they went out, and all the orphans thought, "Oh no, are they going to punish him again? I wonder what they're going to do." And they went down the hall and they could hear the clicker lady going down the hall, stopped, opened the door, and the kind lady looked in, and there was the littlest orphan sitting on his bed. And she said to him, "Come here, sweetie, take my hand." And he looked startled and he said, "No, I can't go to the party. It's my punishment." And she said, "Yes, you can. Take my hand." "But I've got my jammies on and everybody else is dressed up." "It doesn't matter, sweetie. Just take my hand." And so quietly and slowly he got out of his bed and he put his hand up in her hand, and they walked back down the hall, and the clicker lady was walking right behind him, and he didn't know what to expect, and he thought, "Oh no, I know what they're going to do. They're going to bring me in there to where the party is, and I'm in my jammies, and then they're going to make fun of me because I don't look dressed up. And and he was sure that he was going to get punished again. And all of a sudden, the nice lady took him over to Santa Claus and said, "Santa Claus, I think there's a present somewhere for the littlest orphan." And Santa Claus laughed, "Ha ha ha," and he bent down and he grabbed the present and he gave it to the littlest orphan. And the littlest orphan looked around. Everybody was watching. And then he started opening his presents, and it was just a little car, just a little wooden car, but it was the sweetest thing, the best and the only present he got that year. And everybody else had their one present, and then it was time to eat, and then they had music, and then it was time to go back. And just before it was time to go back, the dressed up lady came over to the littlest orphan, and she got close to his ear and she whispered something. And everybody was listening. And the littlest orphan nodded like that. Yes. And so then they all went back, and when they got in the room, everybody was buzzing and said, "What did she say? What did she say?" And he said, "I'm not going to tell." No, you've got to tell. "What did she say? You nodded your head. You said yes. What did she say?" "I'm not going to tell, but tomorrow you'll find out." And so they all finally went to sleep. And the littlest orphan woke up early in the morning. He got his shoes shined and he wore his best clothes. And at 6:45 in the morning, he slipped out of his room and walked out to the front parlor where the front door was. Because you see, he had a 7 o'clock appointment. And at 7 o'clock, right on the dot, a black limousine pulled up. And a man dressed in a suit got out of the driver's side, and he came over and opened the door, and he said, "Are you the littlest orphan?" And he said, "Yes, I am." He said, "Come with me." Took his hand, took him to the back of the limousine, opened up the door, and guess who was sitting inside in the big space in the back of the limousine? It was that nice lady. And the littlest orphan said, "Good morning," and smiled, and she said, "Good morning." And she said, "I see that you're all ready for the day." And he said, "Oh, yes, I am." And so they pulled out of the driveway, and they went around in the countryside about 5 miles until they got to the base of a hill. And they started going on a circular driveway up to the very top of the hill, where there was this beautiful house. It looked like a palace. And the littlest orphan, he could hardly swallow. He was shocked. And the man got out of the car, opened the door for him and for the lady, and together they walked up the steps, and she said, "Now I have a surprise for you. But before I show you the surprise, let's eat breakfast." And they went into the kitchen, where there was a table filled with food like we just ate. And there they sat and talked and ate and had a wonderful breakfast together. And when they were all done, she said, "Are you ready for the surprise?" And he said, "Yes." She took his hand, and they walked up the stairs, down the hall, first room on the right, and opened the door. And what he saw made him speechless. There was a boy's room. There was a train set on a table off to the corner. There was a wonderful bed that looked like a race car with wonderful race car quilts on it. There were some cars, and there was a fire engine and a police car over there in the corner. And then he raised his eyes to look up on the wall across from the bed, and there he saw it. And he said, I broke that picture. Where did you get that picture?" And the lady said, "I had 2 of them painted. One of them for my house, and the other one for the orphanage where all the orphans live." But he said, "But it's exactly the same. It's the little Christ child. I see it. There's Mary, his mommy, and she's holding the little Christ child." And she said, "That's my surprise." "Oh," he said, "I love that picture. I've always loved that picture." And then she said to him, "How would you like to wake up every morning and go to sleep every night looking at that picture?" And he said, "Oh, you couldn't take it away from your house. That wouldn't be right. It fits on your wall." And she said, "I'm not going to take it away from my house. How would you like to be my little boy?" And he said, "Really?" "Yes," he nodded. "Yes," he nodded. And from that day on, the littlest orphan woke up every morning and went to sleep every night looking at the picture of the little Christ child. Amen.
The King of Glory stooped low to take humanity. His glory veiled, he shunned all outward display. Jesus purposed that no attention of an earthly nature should call men to his side. Only the beauty of heavenly truth must draw those who would follow him. He desired man to accept him upon the testimony of the Word of God.
My Jesus came as a little baby, born in a cattle stall. The shepherds came to the virgin-born baby and worshipped at the angel's call. He proved that God loves you and I love you, and that's the way it will be. Messiah grew, and many knew he was the Son of God. He healed the sick, the blind, the lame, as through this land he trod. Sing it over. God loves you and I love you, and that's the way it should be. God loves you and I love you, and that's the way it will be. He bled and died, was crucified, his life was given for you. He rose again, new life to give, and you can have it too. Hallelujah. God loves you and I love you, and that's the way it should be. God loves you and I love you, and that's the way it will be. So trust him now, before him bow, your life will overflow. Then spread the word they've never heard, that Jesus loves us so. Hallelujah. God loves you and I love you, and that's the way it should be. God loves you and I love you, and that's the way it will be. God loves you and I love you, and that's the way it should be. God loves you and I love you, and that's the way it will be. That's the way it will be. That's the way it will be.
The angels watched to see how the people of God would receive his Son, clothed in the garb of humanity. To the land where the light of prophecy had shone, the angels came. They came unseen to Jerusalem and the ministers of God's house. Already to Zacharias the priest, as he ministered before the altar, the nearness of Christ's coming had been announced. Already the forerunner was born, and tidings of his birth and the significance of his mission had been spread abroad. John the Baptist, who came to prepare the way for Jesus' first coming. And yet Jerusalem was not preparing to welcome her Redeemer. God had called the Jewish nation to communicate to the world that Christ was to be born of David's line, yet they knew not that his coming was at hand. In the temple of the morning and evening sacrifice daily pointed to the Lamb of God, yet even there was no preparation to receive him. Priests and teachers rehearsed their meaningless prayers and performed the rites of worship, but were not prepared for the revelation of the Messiah. The same indifference pervaded the land of Israel. Hearts, selfish and world engrossed, were untouched by the joy that thrilled all heaven. Only a few were longing to behold the unseen. As they journeyed from Nazareth to the city of David, the decree of Rome for enrollment of the peoples of her vast domain had extended to the hills of Galilee. Caesar Augustus became God's agent in bringing the mother of Jesus to Bethlehem. She was of the lineage of David, and the son of David must be born in David's city. Out of thee, Bethlehem, said the prophet, shall he come forth, that is to be ruler in Israel. Those goings forth have been from old, from the days of eternity. Micah 5, verse 2. But in the city of their royal line, Joseph and Mary were unrecognized, unhonored. Weary and homeless, they traversed the narrow street to the eastern extremity of vainly seeking a resting place for the night. There was no room at the crowded inn. In a rude building where beasts were sheltered, they at last found refuge. And here the Redeemer was born.
Come, they told me, pa-rum-pum-pum-pum, a newborn king to see, pa-rum-pum-pum-pum. Our finest gifts we bring, pa-rum-pum-pum-pum, to lay before the king, pa-rum-pum-pum-pum, rum-pum-pum-pum, rum-pum-pum-pum. So to honor him, pa-rum-pum-pum-pum, when we come, little baby, pa-rum-pum-pum-pum, I am a poor boy too, pa-rum-pum-pum-pum. I have no gift to bring, pa-rum-pum-pum-pum, that's fit to give our king, pa-rum-pum-pum-pum, rum-pum-pum-pum, rum-pum-pum-pum. Shall I play for you, pa-rum-pum-pum-pum, on my drum? Mary nodded, pa-rum-pum-pum-pum. The ox and lamb kept time, pa-rum-pum-pum-pum. I played my drum for him, pa-rum-pum-pum-pum. I played my best for him, pa-rum-pum-pum-pum, rum-pum-pum-pum, rum-pum-pum-pum. Then he smiled at me, pa-rum-pum-pum-pum, me and my drum, me and my drum, me and my drum.
The tidings filled heaven with rejoicing. Holy beings from the world of light were drawn to earth. Above the hills of Bethlehem, a throng of angels awaited the signal to declare the glad news to the world. The leaders in Israel might have shared the joy of heralding the birth of Jesus, but they were passed by. To those who seek light and accept it with gladness, the bright rays from the throne of God will shine. Heaven and earth are no wider apart today than when the shepherds listened to the angels. Angels from the courts above will attend the steps of those who come and go at God's command. As Mary looked upon the child in her arms and recalled the words spoken by the shepherds, she was full of bright hope. Simeon's words called to her mind the prophetic utterances of Isaiah. The people that walked in darkness have seen a great light. They that dwell in the land of the shadow of death, upon them hath the light shined. For unto us a child is born, unto us a son is given, and the government shall be upon his shoulder. And his name shall be called Wonderful, Counselor, the Mighty God, the Everlasting Father, the Prince of Peace.
Mom, where's your new book? Amanda asked as she ran her fingers along the books on the shelf. Beth was reading it, her mom answered. Beth, Amanda hollered at her sister, where's Mom's new book? Beth shrugged. Brian had it after me. Brian, both sisters yelled together. Brian came grinning into the room with a book tucked firmly under his arm. He obviously had heard the entire exchange and was more than pleased to be in possession of the book his sister wanted. He was in a good bargaining position, and he knew it. As the youngest of the family, he rarely had controlling power in any situation. Did you call me? He asked in a sweet, innocent voice. Yeah, I need this, Amanda said, reaching out and grabbing the book. Brian twisted away, keeping it out of her reach. I'm reading it right now. I just got started, and I want to read the whole thing, every single story. Amanda knew it would take days for Brian to read the whole book. She put her hands on her hips. I want to read it now before we have to go to bed, she glared at him. Me too, he shrugged nonchalantly. His sister changed her tactic. Dropping down onto the couch, she sighed, Okay, if you don't want me to read to you. That did it. Quick as a wink, he was snuggled against her, opening the book to the last story. Beth came over to sit on the other side when Amanda began to read. Mother looked up from her needlework and smiled at the three huddled on the couch. Adam, her oldest, was sitting on a chair close by pretending to do his homework and was too interested to move away. The book was a collection of stories and had just come in the mail a few days before. The last story was about a gift exchange taking place at Christmas and was by far the children's favorite. The exchange was done as a game with the gifts being traded, exchanged, and stolen from other family members. The children were so engrossed in the story that they felt as if they were there, watching it all happen, and they laughed out loud as Amanda read. Even after the story was finished and the book was closed, the kids sat still while the story lingered in their minds. Finally, Beth spoke. "Mom, could we do that?" "Do what, Bethy?" "Do that exchange game at Christmas." All the kids looked eagerly at their mother. It was Adam who answered first. "No, we can't. There's only 6 of us in the family, and there needs to be a lot more than that to make it really fun." His siblings were quiet for a moment while they considered this. Adam was always logical and practical and usually made a good point. They decided he was right, but there might be another way they could play the game when they got together with their dad's family. With grandparents, aunts, uncles, and cousins, there would be 17. 17 is a good number. Adam, don't you think so? Brian wanted to convince his big brother. 17 people is good, but it still won't work. It has to be the right people, too. It just won't work with them, he shook his head. What do you mean? It has to be the right people, Amanda demanded. It doesn't matter who they are, and you just don't want to do it. That's it. It does so matter, Amanda, he answered. Can you imagine what would happen if you took a present away from one of the 3 little cousins? They would scream and cry, and all the parents would be mad, and then we would get in trouble for making them cry, and then we would be mad, and then the whole thing would be wrecked, finished Amanda. Beth and Brian nodded. Adam was right. It had to be the right number and the right people, too. Eventually, it was decided that Grandma's would be the perfect place. Grandma was Mother's mom. There was a total of 13 with all family members gathered. 13 was almost as good as 17. The youngest cousin was 10, the same age as Brian, and they were all good sports and enjoyed playing just about anything. Adam approved the decision, and so did Mother. The kids cheered and sat down to read the story all over again. Mother's thoughts were busy. The kids had thought things out fairly well, especially with Adam's guidance. However, they had overlooked one rather large problem. Her sister would not approve of spending money on gifts that might or might not end up in the hands of a person she intended them for. Fun is fun, but money is money. The solution was for Mother and her husband, Peter, to buy all the gifts themselves. They would buy 13 small gifts. If all the gifts were small, it wouldn't really hurt the budget, and the children did want to try out the game. She talked it over with Peter, and he agreed. For the next month, Mother picked up little things, a pair of socks, a toy truck, some bracelets. A set of salt and pepper shakers in the shape of Santa and Mrs. Claus would be a hit for the 3 women who all had collections of salt and peppers. The gifts were carefully hidden from curious eyes. The day before Christmas, the family met at Grandma's house. There was much excitement over being together. Exclamations flew over decorations and gifts and way too much good food. Nobody could cook like Grandma. Finally, the time came. Amanda explained the rules, and the game was started. It was everything they had hoped it would be. Gifts were snatched, traded, and wrestled for. The children squealed with delight. It had been the highlight of their Christmas. Peter and Mother smiled as they watched the family. Who would have thought that it would have meant so much? Christmas was barely over when Amanda reminded her mother to start picking up gifts for next year's exchange game. It was a good idea to start a year ahead of time. Mother found a board game at a discount store. A ceramic angel candlestick was given away to the first 20 customers at a department store. Slowly but surely, the gifts began to pile up until there were enough. As Christmas approached again, Peter's carpentry business slowed down and money became short. They would still have a nice Christmas, but they would have to watch every penny. The only concern the children had was whether or not they would be able to play their exchange game again. Mother assured them that the presents were already bought, even something for their new baby cousin. I think you will be even more happy to know that the gifts this year are bigger and better than last year. I had a lot more time to find some good deals. It'll be extra good. Mother told them. She was almost knocked over as they tried to hug her at the same time. The exchange game was so important to them. It was definitely becoming a tradition. Just a week before Christmas, as they sat around the dinner table, Mother told them of a family in town who was having problems. The husband had been out of work for a long time, and the family had very little food and no money to buy gifts for their 3 children. After hearing the story, Peter made a quick decision. We just killed 3 turkeys. Let's take one and give it to them tomorrow. The children all looked at each other and then down at their plates. How fortunate they were to have 2 loving parents, presents for Christmas, a big farm, and all the turkeys, chickens, and other animals, as well as all the vegetables from Mother's big garden. They were all thinking the same thought. Mom, don't they have a new baby? Adam asked. Yes, they do, she answered. Didn't you buy a baby gift for the exchange, she questioned. Yes, I did. Well, I think we should give it to them, our exchange game gifts. Mother looked around the table at the other children. They were nodding in agreement. She left the table and returned carrying the big box. From it, she pulled out a doll, 2 coffee mugs, the board game, the candlestick holders, some baby toys, colored pencils, and numerous other gifts. She wondered if they would change their mind when they saw all that they would be giving up. We can help you wrap them after supper is cleaned up, Mom, Amanda decided. I can stick the name tags and bows on them, Brian piped in. You could take them over when no one is home so they won't know who did it, Beth suggested. That would make it even more fun. And so they did. After supper, they wrapped and tagged the gifts, discussing all the while how surprised and happy the family would be to find the gifts and the turkey on their doorstep. Not once did any of them mention the loss of their precious gift exchange. They went together to deliver the parcels. This is what you really want to do? Mother asked as they approached the house. She could tell by the glow on their faces that Amanda spoke for them all. Mom, we can always play the game next year, but for now, this feels good in my heart. Tears came to Mother's eyes as she marveled at the love and generosity of her children. It felt good in her heart, too.
What child is this who laid to rest on Mary's lap is sleeping, whom angels greet with anthems sweet, while shepherds watch are keeping? This is Christ the King, whom shepherds guard and angels sing. Haste, haste to bring him, Lord, the babe, the Son of Mary. Why lies he in such mean estate, where ox and ass are feeding? Good Christian, fear for sinners here, the silent word is pleading. This is Christ the King, whom shepherds guard and angels sing. Haste, haste to bring him, Lord, the babe, the Son of Mary. So bring him incense, gold, and myrrh. Come, peasant king, to own him. The King of kings salvation brings. Let loving hearts enthrone him. This is Christ the King, whom shepherds guard and angels sing. Haste, haste to bring him, Lord, the babe, the Son of Mary.
I want to say thank you Thank you so much. And when I shake his hand, all of those who participated, thank you. Big thank you. And you'll be sure and give them hugs and shake hands and whatever it takes to let everyone know how much you enjoyed being here. Now, all of us know, and so do all the other pastors in town, that the origins of Christmas come not from the Bible, but from other places. All right? But we also recognize that any chance we have to lift Jesus up, we take it. Don't we? And what a privilege it is for us to join with our community, not just to pay lip service to the words Emmanuel and God with us and Prince of Peace and King of Kings and Lord of Lords, but to do some practical things.